Thank you. That was
Yeah,
beautiful.
that was beautiful. You're welcome.
Hey, Charlie. Hey, Katrina. Hi, Diane. Welcome, welcome. All right, Dr. Carmen, take it away.
Good morning. What a wonderful time to be alive. I'm very excited to be here. I'm very grateful. I'm so glad that I tuned in early because I could hear the caregivers. I could hear people being of service. And it just, I just love humanity. And so you make me fall in love with me because there's only one here. And thank you for sharing what you shared before. You're a blessing to everyone. Sometimes we're in our little silos and we don't realize how big our life is. And when we express what we're going through, what we're experiencing, and I also heard a lot of gratitude there, that even though it's tough, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that. And so it just fortified me. It was like giving me a supplement. And I appreciate that. We never know how our words are going to affect another person. Sometimes we don't realize that our experiences are precious. And so I just want you to know that your experiences are precious to me. So my name is Dr. Karmen Smith. I don't really associate with that name. It's just the name I was given. Karmen Smith is a married name. Doctor has to do with education, but I'm so past that it doesn't really resonate, but I get it. I need to have a label on me so that I can introduce myself and show up in the world. But if I had to say what was the most important thing in my life, it's not degrees, it's not anything but the forgiveness of my dad. I think it really starts with that because our topic today is creating a new you or create a new you. And let me tell you how I was before I forgave my dad, because I have a story that goes along with that. In other words, I have a blueprint of what my life was like back then. And I really have to go far back, but I think it's important to know what forgiveness can do because it really can create a new you. So before I forgave my dad, I was like in my 40s, okay? Still holding on to resentment. But if you asked me, Carmen, have you forgiven your dad? I would say, of course I've forgiven my dad. I'm a mental health therapist. I moved thousands of miles away. I'm in Nevada. He's in Missouri. Of course I've forgiven my dad. You see how irrational that sounds now. But back then, totally justified in saying that. I don't even have any contact with my dad. So, of course, I've forgiven him. But let me show you how that showed up. And I'm totally unaware of it at the time. This is in the subconscious mind. How it showed up was hatred toward men. How it showed up was relational dysfunction with my spouse. How it showed up was relational dysfunction with my boss, with coworkers. So my life was a struggle. But you know how I justified it? I justified it that, well, everybody's life has struggle. One of the things that unforgiveness does is it really limits your idea of possibility, of having a really fabulous life. You can't even imagine it. I mean, I guess you could have it on TV and see it on TV, but I think I justified it by saying, well, everybody, has hates their job. Everybody has arguments. You see how you justify things like that? And what you do when you do that is that you deny heaven because heaven can be here on earth. It's not when we die and we go up somewhere. That's maybe what we've been taught, that the clouds have heaven in it. But actually, this life, we were created to have heaven here. We were created to be heaven on earth. And so unforgiveness put me in a box and in a prison where I couldn't see heaven. It was foreign to me. And I didn't grow up seeing great relationships. And so one day I had a spiritual awakening, a spiritual experience that caused me to see that there's something else. Let me just talk about that spiritual experience. It was amazing. So this was back in the late 90s. I had a son. I've been through a horrible divorce, still going through custody stuff. And, God has a sense of humor, and that's why he gave me a boy child, because it's like, you're going to work on this thing. You're not going to hide from this. And so that's how loving the universe is, continually giving us opportunities to heal what it is and why we can't see and experience heaven. And so I'm driving in my car. Life is a struggle. Work is a struggle. I'm on autopilot going from my house to my job, which I've done for years. So I worked at the county in Las Vegas, Nevada, as a therapist for abused and neglected children. I worked with foster parents. I worked with kids that were in the foster system. I worked with biological parents that are going through the court process. So I'm doing all of these things, and I'm really struggling with my boss, whom I thought he was a moron. I thought he was just, let's just be frank. That's where I was back then. And I thought my life would be so much better if my husband changed. My life would be so much better if my boss changed, if I had a new boss. That's what will make this life work. So I'm driving in my car on autopilot. All of a sudden, I see a flash of light and I see Jesus. And the next thing I know, I'm nowhere near my job. I know that. I'm on the freeway. The next thing I know, I'm in the parking lot of my job. Not in my regular parking space, not anywhere near it, crying, just crying, sobbing, cleansing tears. And all of a sudden, I had a picture of my father in my head. Now, keep in mind, on the freeway, I wasn't saying, I wish my father would change. I said, I wish my spouse would change, my ex-husband would change. I wish my boss would change. But all of a sudden, I'm crying and I see a picture of my father there. And I loved him. I just loved him. And I felt this inner knowing that I loved him from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet. And everything about him I loved. Now, keep in mind, I'm in my 40s. So for 40 some odd years, I had file cabinets of why I hated this person. I kept file cabinets. So if someone were to say, well, why didn't you forgive your dad? Or why should my mom leave him? I had files. I kept track of all the wrongs. And they were in that file cabinet. Now I'm in the parking lot crying and I'm loving everything about him. And the file cabinets are not there anymore. And then it switched from my dad to my boss. And I thought, I love him. I love him from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet. And I had file cabinets on him too. Oh, I was a file keeper. I could tell you why. Maybe even the date and the time. And all of a sudden, those file cabinets disintegrated. And then something weird happened. I loved me. I didn't say I needed to change on the freeway. That wasn't even in my consciousness for me to change. But all of a sudden, I loved me, and I couldn't love them without loving me, that it was all intertwined and connected. I had never in my life thought of the people that I didn't like as being intertwined with me. That was never in my consciousness. I always separated. That person is that person, and I know that they need to change, and you're making my life. And I was total separation and division. But in this moment, I saw my boss as me, my dad as me, my ex-husband as me, and my son as me. And I had no file cabinets. And I had this deep, deep love for me. Now, I was different after that. As a matter of fact, I remember going into work, and my eyes were red. I've just been crying and everything. And I go in and I tell the first person that I was working with, a coworker, she was a therapist, and I told her what happened. And she said, I think you had an epileptic seizure.
Right.
So basically, what that told me is, okay, this is what they call inner transformation. And I really have to maybe be conscious of who I tell this to, because it's going to make them feel uncomfortable, and they're going to think something's wrong with me. So I really had to, and maybe to this day, it's like when certain things happen, I have to talk to somebody that maybe can understand or relate on some level what just happened. And so after that experience, I did change. Before, I was trying to get my boss fired, because remember, I thought that my problems were because of him. So God really spoke to me. And when I'm talking about God, I'm talking about that highest self within myself that was taking over, had taken charge, had burst through the chaos and the crazy, created a love of myself that expanded to everyone in my field. And so I had to do things differently. So I couldn't go forward with this diabolical plan of getting him fired. So what did I have to do? I went to him and told him all the things that I was doing behind his back. Oh my gosh, I'm different. I'm different. Oh my gosh. That is when I tell people that, they're like, "What? You did what? Couldn't you have just let it just fizzle out on its own?" No, I had to admit to the crazy. And I also had to let myself be on notice, that ego self, that it's not going to be tolerated anymore, that you're not going to do stuff like that anymore because it's going to come to the surface. You're not the same anymore. In other words, some people will say that I put the ego in the back seat. It's no longer driving the vehicle, which is this holy temple, this vessel. So when you create a new you, one of the things that I think is very apparent is that you have to confront the ego, or the ego will be confronted and say, not today, not anymore. That's not how I see him, my boss. Because what I do to my boss, I'm also doing to me. And that's in the Bible. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I kind of got that intellectually, but now I got this in the heart chakra. It's like, what? I can't do that anymore because I'm not separating myself from other people anymore. Now, the ego learns to separate as soon as we come out of the womb. I mean, we're connected to our mother, and you would think that we would hold that connection with other people, but we're taught that we're separate. I've got this color skin. I'm the gender that I am. I have different hair color. Everything is a comparison, and that's how we kind of learn and go through life. But this was another learning that I experienced. It is a remembering because we come into this space as a oneness, one being, and then we're separated into these different aspects of the same thing. And so it is only one thing here. It is that spirit of God, that energy of God that is within everyone. And when we're able to see it, our life changes and you create a new you. So one of the things that was, I don't know, 20 some odd years ago. But one, and there's always growth. It's not that you are this, oh, I found oneness, and then the growth stops. Because I haven't walked on water yet. But here's the thing, when I went to Sedona, and I'm crediting Sedona with this, Nikki, you'll understand this. Sedona does have a frequency and a vibration, and it's different than and I'm right now I'm in Henderson, Nevada. So I live in Henderson and I also live in Sedona. When I moved to Sedona, I could feel that there was a difference. There was like a protective bubble, and it just feels like home. And when people ask me how it feels, I say, well, you know how a toddler, when they're just about to go to sleep and they're in this comfy space and they're drifting into sleep and everything is safe and wonderful. That's how I feel in Sedona. So I get to Sedona and I meet a couple of people that are kind of vibrating at the same frequency as me so I can share my weird and wonderful experiences and spiritual awakening experiences with. And I realized that I'm not really aligned with anything, any of these labels. Hmm. People ask me what I do, and I'm like, I don't have an answer for them. So Sedona took me down to a really blank slate. Now, let me tell you, there's wonderful things that happen with that, but let me just focus on the things that are not so great about being taken down to a blank slate. It's hard to market yourself. What do you do? Oh, I just, well, you got to put something down there, right? So I will say it's hard to market yourself. Here's the upside. The upside is that in any given moment, you have infinite possibilities. So I'll give you an example. I was on a cruise with my sister. My uncle was passing away from terminal cancer. And so I said, "Oh, okay, then I'll fly to Kansas City, Missouri and be with him." Now, Spirit is saying do that. I go there. I'm with him. I'm grateful for him. And he passes. Now, am I a death doula? I'm not going to label myself that. In that moment, I felt like it was right to be with my uncle, to help him transition, to be in a state of gratitude, to hold that energy of gratitude for him. But I don't want to label myself. Another thing, I'm with a group of people and I go up to somebody and I say, I really appreciate you. You're always shining. You're always doing such a great job. What am I? I'm an encourager. What do I put that on a business card? You are what spirit wants you to be in that moment. And so being a blank slate really frees you. It frees you up to be whatever it is in the moment. One of the things you'll never hear me say is, oh, I can't do that. I've never done that. Well, when you're a blank slate, what tells you that you can't do it? Only past experiences, only past labels that you put on yourself. Oh, are you a hands-on healer? I'm not going to call myself that. But if there's somebody that is not feeling well, and I happen to be in the vicinity, and I get a spoken word or an intuition or a feeling to go over and touch them or give them an encouraging word, then I will do that. But I'm not going to put that on a business card because that label may limit me from doing something else. Oh, do you public speak? Whatever it is, whatever spirit wants me to do, I'll do that. I was watching Prince of Egypt the other night and the burning bush, it's about Moses and the burning bush or the lighted bush, the light energy of God was saying, go to Pharaoh and let my people go. And Moses was like, what are you talking about? I am a sheep herder right now. And God was like, what label is that? It's like you're limiting yourself. And that's a lot of times what we do. And it stops us from creating a new you. A new you is limitless. A new you doesn't have a label. And here's the thing, that energy that burst forth within me, that allowed me to see the oneness in my dad and me and my boss and in everyone, that is a light that is infinite. And it doesn't have a label. The only name that God gave himself is I am. And so when I can say, I am helping my uncle transition, I am encouraging this person, I am putting my hands on them so that my frequency of knowing their complete health and wellness comes to the surface, I'm not putting a label on that. And so when we embody the I am presence within ourselves, we are divinity. Not only are we divinity, but each and every one of us is coming from that divinity, which makes us divine. That's why it's an exciting time to be alive, because we get to be the I am presence in this moment, on this planet, at this time. And it creates infinite possibilities. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Let's take a deep breath and just take that in. And whatever you received from that, just take that into every cell of your body and just relax into that. Because this is not really about acquiring anything. It is about remembering, but it's also about being receptive to our true self, being receptive to having no limits. Hmm.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll turn it over to you.
Charlie, your puppy is
My
receptive
puppy
to its
knows
true
no
self and
limits.
is limitless.
Yeah, it's a limitless puppy.
Yes.
Who we're trying to impose some limits on.
Beautiful.
It was a wonderful speak. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what to call you since you have no label. Call you, you're my
Hey, you.
nothingness. You're my nothingness.
Laura, you had a question?
Yeah, well, a comment. I so related to your story about your dad and your boss. I went through the same exact thing, except for my boss was my dad.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
He was so like my father. And I know he was put in my life to work on my issues with my dad because I married my dad twice. I didn't learn the first time. I had to do it a second time. And in my 40s is when I found Al-Anon because my father was an alcoholic and in Al-Anon I reestablished my spirituality and found God again as my higher power. And in that sense, and then getting into the whole spiritual realm, I have had a dear friend who's not with us on the earth plane anymore, but she had a major influence on me. I was at a message circle with her one time, and she brought my dad through, who was asking for my forgiveness. And I asked her, how do I do that? And she said, um, put a picture of him out somewhere where you see it a lot. And every time you see it, smile and send him blessings. And about a year later, I was at another message circle with a different person. And he told me, your dad is here to tell you thank you.
Mm,
And he has moved on. He was stuck on a plateau. And with my forgiveness, he was able to move on. And that freed me up so much.
mhm.
Um, I still had a lot of resentment, though, at different times. That when he finally passed, I learned in Al Anon, write down your feelings. And I did that. And I wrote a 9-page letter and put it in his casket.
Mm,
Was
mhm,
able to let go of all of it and totally forgive him.
mm,
wow.
So thank you for
mm,
reminding me of.
mm. Thank you.
So Carmen, that statue next to you, what does that mean to you? The statue that's sitting right
Oh,
next. Yeah.
oh, thank you.
How do you identify with that statue?
How do I identify with it?
Yeah, what does it mean to you? Obviously, it's a lovely piece of art, and you're sitting right next to it.
Yes, yes. Thank you for that. Yes, it's called African Venus, and it was done by a French sculptor. It's a bronze. It was done in the 1800s. So it was modeled after an enslaved person coming off the boat at the auction block. And you can't see her face, but her expression is kind of looking to the future, like you can do with what you want with my body, but in the future, it will be better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, as a, one of the labels I've had over the years is the artist and I've sculptured. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I have a question for you. How is it for you today to be in the world, but not of the world, being that you're operating from a higher vibration than the average person? What's it like for you to be among the average people?
That's a great question. I did a video not too long ago. I was in uptown in Sedona on a trail. So I was near 89, which is the big freeway, but I was also in the forest. So I was shrouded by trees. And one of the things that I was trying to explain was you hear people talking about the fifth dimension, which is just a little higher frequency, meaning that you're in the world, but you're not of the world. So I could hear the freeway, but I was so in nature that my direct experience was the birds, was the deer, was, the wildlife, was the nature, was the little stream. So my direct experience is heaven, but I do know what's going on in the world. Like people will say, "Oh, you don't know what's going on." I'm like, "Yeah, I know about what's going on." And then people want to tell you and not just tell you all the details about what's going on, but they're trying to get an emotional reaction from you that matches theirs. So that's kind of like a game that people are still playing, but you just see it as that's their experience. That's how they are relating to the chaos by matching it. The thing about being in heaven is that we know that there are several other dimensional spaces of emotion that we can have. And we also know that we're put on the planet for this particular time. So if everybody's matching chaos, you're just going to have more and more chaos. And so we're put on the planet not to match the chaos emotionally. We're meant to have a higher frequency. Now, when I talk about higher frequency, all that is the chart of power versus force that Dr. Hawkins did, David Hawkins. You can Google that, David Hawkins, power versus force. They put together, or he did a lot of research on frequency and vibration. And the higher frequencies are love, joy, bliss. But anything above courage is excellent. So courage is the middle ground. Below courage is, of course, fear, shame, blame, doubt. All of those frequencies I was in before my forgiveness of my dad. I blamed everybody for my life struggle. My life is crazy because of this and because they haven't passed this in the legislature and all. It's all about blame. Once you get above courage, and that courage means courage to face what is within you that hasn't been healed. What is in me? See, I didn't even know that question existed when I was on the freeway. What in me? What in me needs to be healed in order for this reality to change? Once you get that, it's like the cartoon where your head explodes. It's like the courage, what do I need to have courage to look within myself to see what has not been healed in order to change what is on the outside of me? Oh my gosh, that's big. And most people are still in the lower frequencies. Look at all the chaos. It matches what's going on within me. It makes sense to me that there's chaos because there's chaos in me, and they're still playing that game. And when you're not in those lower frequencies, yes, they try to play the game with you, but then they notice there's something different about you. So they can label it weird, she's unattached, whatever. It doesn't matter because you're not into what people think. What you're into is raising the frequency of the planet. So it's a different agenda. I don't know if that was a long answer to
Okay, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
So a person without labels or agenda. What if a person has an agenda? What if a person, we're taught to be captains of our ship, set our sail, have a goal, move towards the goal, make the goal happen, and not be rudderless. So I think I'll see if I can come up with a meaningful question about that. It seems to me, some people totally surrender, and what it means to them is to do nothing, and then they make nothing of their contributions seem to be nil, and they can't support them. They can't find a means of support. So, in your journey, where you are now, are you rudderless? Do you have a direction? Do you have an inner guidance that moves you towards expressing your life in a way that serves humanity and serves yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, one of the things that when I talk about energy, frequency, and vibration, who first talked about that was Nikola Tesla. He said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And so what I'm saying is that, and I can speak from my experience, is that the call is really clear once you're in those higher frequencies. The call is really clear to be that, not to act it, not to put on a show, not to, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be in joy. It's just a state of being. And so when your frequency is that state of being, that is your mission, to be that frequency. Now, when you're in that frequency, there's also something else in that frequency, and that is abundance. So, your needs are met. That's what I'm saying. And then there's an overflow that happens, and you give from the overflow. So I don't know if that answered your question, but you're also very attuned to what am I to do? What would you have me do? So there is an action there, but it's not based on ego. Like, oh, I should do this because so-and-so wants, it's not based on that. It's based on you've gifted me with these gifts and talents that are limitless. You've gifted me with abundance. So there is going to be a mission. You just don't know maybe what it is. Like, I don't know what I'm going to be doing a year from now or 6 months from now. It's not like goal oriented because I need to be like on call, if that makes any sense.
So that's your goal, to be on.
My goal is to be in service to humanity.
Yeah, and you're doing a beautiful job at it. That's obvious, for sure. And your explanation is good. In my experience, there have been people within our ministry that has totally been guided by spirit, and that they don't have to go out a 9-to-5 job or anything like that. And they've been able to raise children, single parent, that God does provide through us, as no question about it. Now, the use of the word ego, how would you, and the word ego in I was trained have a lot of different meanings, like they call the super ego the will of God. The little ego was our relationship to the whole. So I totally in agreement with raising vibrations to that level of love, joy, and peace and assurance. Absolutely. That's if there was a role, that would be Michael.
So my experience with Dr. Karmen briefly would be that every moment is a call to action for love. I think that that's basically what my takeaway from the first time I met her a few years ago is that is the mission as spirit beings, is to operate from that level, that love is the only thing that is truly, that exists as an energy. And when we come from that place, all else falls into balance, which brings me to my next question. If you don't mind, we've got a few minutes. How did your relationships, could you speak to how your relationships transformed after your change?
Tremendously transformed, because in the lower frequencies, I was thinking tit for tat. You remember that saying, tit for tat, or it basically is revenge, because it's like, how are you going to do that to me? And, well, then if you're going to do that, then I'm going to, whatever that is, even if it's in an argument. I grew up with two sisters. I have an older sister, and if we got in an argument, you had to say the last word. You had to, even if you didn't say the last word, you had to slam a door. You had to do something to let them know that you didn't win. So all of that is lower frequency. So I was doing that with my husband, but there was something in me even before I forgave my dad that wouldn't allow me to go all the way revenge mode. There was something that was always not something, it was the Holy Spirit in me that said, maybe you can do that, but don't do this. Not maybe you can do that. You're not ready to know you shouldn't do that. It was very graceful. There was just a comforting blanket over me that wouldn't allow me to go full revenge mode. So I would have these thoughts of, oh, I could just scratch up his Corvette. He was doing that. But I wouldn't have Holy Spirit was saying, no, don't do that. So I didn't go full revenge mode, but I would think about these things. So how it transformed after I totally forgave my dad and saw my ex-husband as me and all that. It's just that I loved them, and my mind wouldn't even go there. But I'll tell you, my mind was definitely in those spaces before then. I remember seeing the movie Waiting to Exhale, and there's a scene in there where the woman finds out that her husband is cheating, and she takes all his clothes and puts them in his brand new car and sets fire to it. And I know that, we have those thoughts that go through our mind, and thankfully there's something that stops us. But after my experience with the Holy Spirit full on, it was like my mind doesn't even go there. It's like, why would I think such a horrible thing? Because I'm thinking that about me. So
How did
that's,
they react? How did they react to you in response to your inner change, though? I mean, it must have changed your interactions, maybe not right away, but, and I'm sure they noticed the difference in you.
my husband, ex-husband, um, from what I understand, he passed in 2017. So my transformation happened in 1997, 96, something like that. My son was 3 years old at the time. But because, when the ego is still there, you'll find ways to blame the other person for whatever's happening. So I think he was still in blame mode. But my son told me 3 weeks before he passed, he forgave me. So it took a while, and that's wonderful. There's no timetable on anybody's journey. People's journey is people's journey. But I know for me and to raise my son, it was best not to have any animosity or resentment toward his dad, because that would have been like having animosity towards my son. See, once you start this forgiveness thing, there's only one. So it does affect all of your relationships. It can't help but do that. As far as my boss, he was shocked that I went to him and told him everything that I'd been doing. Everybody was shocked. I was shocked. The ego was screaming in the back seat. It's like, what are you doing? Because I had gone to his boss and I'd had a meeting and I'd written, taken notes and I documented. I told you I kept files. If you wanted to get rid of somebody at a government job, you had to keep a file of what they did, when they did it, blah, blah, blah. So now I'm telling him, here's all the stuff. I'm tearing this up. I had a meeting with the boss. This is what I told him. Because my goal was to get rid of you, but now I don't have that goal anymore. Or not I was, the presence of the ego was in the back seat, and the I am presence was in control and said, look, that going forward, this is not something that I want to continue with. And then it's up to him to do whatever with that, what he will do. So here's the change. The change was in me, right? Because I saw my boss differently. I was different. So let's see, I was there for 22 years. When did that happen? I was a newbie. I thought I knew everything. I think I was in there 5 years when that happened. So I was with the county 22 years. Bosses change, you switch out, your coworker becomes your boss, and so, because people are there for the long haul, the 30-year retirement, right? Um, so things were better. Why were things better? Because I was better. Yeah.
Yes. Carmen, I think you just answered a wonderful question.
Mm.
Thing is, I think what I understand is you draw to you what you require to express your life fully, wholly, and completely, and what you find that people come into your life that are helpful to you and maybe help you solve a problem, move on to the next place. It's like we call it divine guidance. And the guidance comes through more purely because of purity of
Yes, I agree with that. In the Bible, they call it the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God. It's like you're going into a different kingdom, and you're right. Things are drawn to you. You're attracting more things that are helpful to your assignment, which is raising the vibration for humanity. People, places, all kinds of things. It's miracle living, and you want that for everybody. But when people hold on to unforgiveness, when people are caught up in the chaos, they're not in the they're not in this other dimensional space. And the Bible talks about it. All religions really talk about this nirvana, but it is the Holy Spirit is guiding everything, and you always are aware of your frequency, and you're loving people.
Yeah. Unconditional.
Yes. Yes. It didn't matter what my boss did after that. Who cares? You just love them unconditionally. Most love is transactional. I was just talking about this with a client. You do this, and that's how my love was. My dad didn't do this, so I'm withholding love. I'm closing off my heart. You didn't do this, I'm closing off my heart. But that's not God's love. So when God enters you, all of that has to go. The ego goes in the back seat. Now, people say, oh, your ego is destroyed. I don't know. However people want to talk about it, I just put him in the back seat so he's not driving this thing.
So you could say the ego moved to a higher vibration where it's for the purity of God's love, God's light, God's power. That's what we celebrate.
Yeah, and God's light, God's power needs to be walking in this vessel at
Exactly.
Walmart,
Right.
Target, wherever. This needs to be out. Yeah. And not in a book, not in a workshop, but just out with our family, with people, because we love people.
Yeah. What I find it gives better clarity in relationships.
So, Charlie, how does this work with your family? You've just been on a road trip with two of them. How did you manage to vibrate through it all?
Very good question. The heat of it was beautiful. When my son asked very politely for his wife to be quiet and repeatedly, right? And she wouldn't be quiet. She wouldn't honor his requests. So it came into from anger to rage. And and finally when he got her to shut up, right? It was beautiful. He got her to shut up. And then what did he do? He gored the shit out of her. He tried to get her to fight. And going over it with him, yeah, I want to bring it to a nuclear conclusion. I said, oh my God, you see what you're doing? Oh my God. Is that your goal? Is that what you really want in life? Just bring everything to a nuclear conclusion. And so eventually I said to them, I said, if you don't change your conversation, you drop me off at the airport because I don't want any part of this. And I was a witness to something, and I felt that the information that I was able to discern and give to them may help them on their journey.
Stuff.
But for the most part, we had a great time. My son was very supportive in helping me get in and out of his his tires are so large on his Bronco, I needed a stepladder to get into the car, so he gave me a step stool every time I needed to get in and out. So he was very helpful, very helpful. His wife was helpful too. So the most part of it was an excellent journey, and we went on there. There was no more hassling. They even got me into a swimming pool with my clothes on. It was all good fun. I just love life. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yep.
And my dog has showed me what unconditional love is.
Great.
I love it. He's having a health challenge, so we're so
All
it's
right.
been a marvelous talk, share wonderful insights on how the spiritual path works. It was Jesus that appeared to her with everyone else. The point is, the enlightened being assisted her in raising consciousness.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, Caitlin, for introducing us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, feel free to come back anytime. The Madonna Ministry, a ministry for ministers.
Yep. Awesome.
I have a prayer.
Okay.
Can I pray us out?
Yes.
This is the prayer of White Cloud.
Mm.
O great spirit, whose voice I hear in the wind and whose breath gives life to all the world, please hear me. I need your strength and wisdom. Let me walk in beauty and make my eyes ever behold the red and purple sunset. Make my hands respect the things you have made and my ears sharp to hear your voice. Let me learn the lessons you have hidden in every leaf and every rock. I seek strength, not to be greater than my brother, but to fight my greatest enemy, myself. Make me always ready to come to you with clean hands and straight eyes. So when life fades as the fading sunset, my spirit may come to you without shame. Amen. Aho.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
I love that.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Next week, we have Katrina coming up with Mystic Magic. That's exciting.
Thank you, Dr. Karmen. That was wonderful.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, please come back.
Yes, thank you.
Grateful. Thank you.
Have a wonderful week. Love to you all.